You ever get that feeling that the world is just moving way too fast? Like all the old rules, the maps we used to follow, they just don't seem to work anymore. We're always told find a new path, right? Get a better strategy. But what if the real challenge isn't about finding a new direction at all, but about finding a completely new way to be? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
Just look at this. This one line really captures that feeling, doesn't it? It's not just that we're on some kind of journey. It feels like the ground itself is shifting under us. You know, our old ideas about progress, that straight line from A to B, they're just kind of becoming obsolete. The world is literally reorganizing itself in real time.
So, the source material for this gives us this really powerful metaphor for what's happening. It says we're living in a thick fog. We can't see very far, and all the familiar landmarks are gone. So, what do? What happens when every single map you've ever relied on is suddenly useless? And this right here, this reframes the whole problem. We are obsessed, absolutely obsessed with the question, okay, where do we go from here? But what if that's the wrong question entirely? Maybe the more important question is, what can we actually count on? What can be our anchor while everything shifts and finds its new place?
This just lays out how disoriented we feel. The guides we counted on, gone. There are no maps to look at, no clear road to follow, and this is the big one, no leader or expert out there who can magically see through the fog any better than you or me. We are all in this thing together. So, okay, when we're faced with this kind of deep uncertainty, how do we usually react? Well, our first instincts, they often lead us down some pretty frantic and honestly unhelpful paths. The first response is basically panic disguised as command. You know, when we feel lost, some of us just start yelling. It's this attempt to sound certain, to create order just by being the loudest, even when we have no idea where we're going. Then you have the people who try to build their way out of the chaos. They create these rigid systems, new rules, new ways of doing things, and then they demand that everybody else follow along. It's like trying to force this fluid, foggy world into a neat little box. And then there's this one, the retreat into self-preservation. It's totally fear-based. People start gathering up everything they can for themselves, food, information, security. And they call it being prepared, but really, it's just cutting yourself off from everyone else. And finally, there's just this deep, painful exhaustion. These are the people who try to be the glue for everything and everyone. They completely burn themselves out trying to stop the world from changing, trying to hold all the pieces together while they're naturally pulling apart. But in the middle of all that shouting and scrambling and fear, the source material points to something else, a totally different kind of response that's starting to show up in the fog. It's not a loud signal flare. It's not some big rallying cry. It's just this, a quiet presence. It doesn't scream for attention. But kind of like this lantern, it just offers this small, steady point of light in all that overwhelming gray. Okay, so what is this presence exactly? I mean, if it's not a new leader or a new 5-step plan or a new set of instructions, then what are we even talking about here? Well, there is a name for it, coherence. And this definition is everything. It's the ability to hold yourself together, to keep your own internal integrity without having to take energy or power or anything from anyone else while the world is in flux. Think of a lighthouse. It doesn't shout directions or chase after ships in the storm. It just stands there, solid, shines its light, and lets others find their own way. It's this kind of self-sustaining grace. So that sounds really nice in theory, but what does it actually do? How does it work in the real world? Let's get into the practical power of coherence and the incredible effect this quiet, steady presence can have on everyone around it. This slide just puts it so clearly. Coherence is not the old way of thinking about power. It's not about claiming you're in charge or pretending you have all the answers or trying to sell some grand vision of the future. It is simply about being a calm, consistent, stable presence right in the middle of all the chaos. And this is what's so wild about how it works. People aren't drawn to coherence to become followers. They just come near it to kind of recalibrate. When they're around it, they can finally catch their breath. They start to feel solid ground under their own feet again. They remember their own strength, who they are. And then, and this is so important, they move on, recentered and ready to go. This really gets to the heart of it. It's not a transaction. It gives without expecting anything back. It helps people find their balance without making them dependent. A coherent presence doesn't need anything from you. It just is.
And so this whole idea leaves us with a really personal question. In the fog that's in your own life, at work, in your family, in your community, maybe the most important question you can ask isn't what should I do next, but how can I be? In your world, how will you cultivate that quiet integrity? How will you be a steady light?